Time for quarter three stats wrap up. So per usual, I'm just going to look at my stats on my Kindle and talk to you guys about it, and I have some highlights I want to talk to, kind of like what the mid-year freakout tag does, but just for books I read in quarter three, favorites, surprises, disappointments, and yeah, just stuff like that. So let's start it off. How has my books per month been going? So if you look here for July, August, and September, it was 13, 9, and 9. And I do think 9 to 10 books is about my average, especially it's probably going to be even like less now because I've been reading the Stormlight Archive and I need to read Oathbringer. Oathbringer's 1,300 pages. That's like 4 average books for me. So that just is what it is. I'm not upset about it. And also if you look at like pages read, it looks like July and August was like kind of sort of, it was interesting because August is way more pages than July, but that's because it had all the tomes. August was when I read like all the 500 plus page books. But in September, that went down because, as I thought, I did not read as much in September because I was moving and I was dead and exhausted for like the first week of that month. Looking at my genre breakdown, it looks like for once fantasy is no longer 50%, it's only 46%, with science fiction at 32%. What's my next highest percentage after that? It's like a tie. Oh, short stories is at 6, and then followed by that is like nonfiction and contemporary, some historical fiction. Yeah, I read a lot of fantasy and science fiction. If you're here for that, you're in a good place. Let's see. I really like looking at all the years that things are published for, so I definitely read things that came out more recently. I think most of my reads are from like 2016 till today, but I do read some older things. Like apparently 4% of what I read was before the 50s, so like that's pretty interesting. I am happy to be back and diversifying the way I read my books, so I like physical books, I like ebooks, I'm getting into audiobooks, but when the pandemic was at its peak, I couldn't get physical books from the library, and the minute I could, I was just so happy to hold books again. I just like switching between the two. So I'm definitely, I'm still at 42% Kindle, but at least have some mixtures of hardback and paperback and things like that. I'm shocked that 15% of what I read now is audiobooks. It was 0% last year, so BookTube has changed me. Per usual, I'm still borrowing like 78% of what I read. That's just who I am. Ooh, page length. I don't know why, but somehow I will never read a book that is between 700 and 799 pages. I don't get it. Like, it just doesn't happen, at least not according to this graph. But let's see, how many tomes? Tomes would be 10, 8, 2, 2. 22% of what I've read is a tome. Whew, that's a lot of tomes. And then, like, novellas is about 10% of what I read, if I'm looking at this right. And unsurprising, if you've been here, 84% of what I've read is adult, and with like 16% being young adult and middle grade. Actually, there's been one middle grade, so yeah. I do not read a lot of that age group, although I want to change it, and I do have a book on my TBR this month that is a short story anthology of, I think, children or middle grade stories. So, changing it up. So, let's look into the authors, because this is something I do like to keep track of. I like to make sure that I'm reading at least 50% female voices, just because my genres are male-dominated. Actually, yeah, science fiction, fantasy, definitely male-dominated. So let's look. I am reading 53% female, 4% non-binary, and 43% male, so woo. And I do a very simplified version of person of color versus white. So person of color, including Black, Latinx, Asian, like it's including everything but white, essentially. And so at the beginning of the year, if you don't remember, this was an atrocious stat, and I've been trying very hard to make it less atrocious. Ideally, I want this to be one day at 50%, but right now I believe it's at 37%, which is an improvement, and I'm less disappointed in myself. But, it's just something that I realize sometimes my stats videos really help me learn about things that I need to be more active in thinking about. So let's look at my star ratings, because this is another thing that I've been thinking about, and it's noticed, and it's very apparent to me here. 47% of what I read are 4 stars. And I don't think they're all true 4 stars now that I read a lot more. Because I've been thinking of like a new way of rating books that will make me realize that sometimes something's actually a 3-star. Because I feel like a part of me is like, well, you finished it and it was a good time, so it has to be at least a 4. But there are 5 stars to choose from, so I should probably be actually using the 3-star more. Like when I look at books I read in February or March and I look at them and I'm like, oh, you rated that like a 4.5, but you barely remember anything. It's probably more of like a 3.5. So like getting myself more comfortable with that. And I like half stars, but I don't like that I can't rate things as half stars on my Goodreads. And I've been rounding up, but that also like bothers me. So I'm thinking about actually just committing to the 5-star system. This is something that I'm thinking about, and I'm going to like be looking through my books and seeing if I can find a way that works for me and how I value enjoyment. And I'm going to make a whole video on it once I've committed. But basically looking at this, I'm obviously rating things 4 stars that are 4 stars, but I think I'm also rating things 4 stars that should probably also be 3-star reads. And I'm just not admitting that to myself because there's this whole idea that 3 stars is bad. But 3 stars is not bad. It just means it was good. It was a good book. So if I just get myself in that headspace. Although I'm still probably always going to be more generous to indie pub books because ratings matter way more when you don't have a lot of numbers. So having more grace there. So yeah, that's the rating. So let's go into the highlights. So what was my best book of this quarter? Anyone have a guess? It was The Sword of Kaigen. It's my best book of the year so far. Freaking love that book. Oh, so good. I want to film a review for that soon. Not just to gush, although gushing will occur, but to also get people to pick it up. Although I do feel like a lot of people are, but man, if you like fantasy, you need to read The Sword of Kaigen. Like, if you've liked what a lot of people have liked in modern fantasy, there is no reason why you won't love it. Like, okay, there are probably reasons. This is me gushing. In the review, I will try to be better. So that was my best book of the quarter. And biggest surprises. So I have 2 because I'm breaking my own rules. But I have Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Maria McLemore. This one I did not expect. I thought I'd like it. I didn't expect it to consume my life for 2 days. I picked it up on Saturday. I don't normally read a lot on the weekends because that's when I'm like, oh, let's spend time with like the boyfriend and like do things. That means not reading as much. But I just read it for 2 days straight. I was just so invested. I was so enamored with the lush writing style, which isn't normally even my writing style. Like, there was everything about this book was just so surprising to me, at least my reactions to it. And my other surprise is going to be Nine Fox Gambit by Yoon Ha Lee. I kind of knew I would like it because Justine from I Should Read That was like, it's really confusing, but it's awesome, and I'm big on confusing reads. But I didn't expect to be so obsessed with the world building, and I made a whole world building review on it that I talk about it all the time, because you should check it out, and you should read this book, because it's so good. It's just such quality world building. Like, if you're done with world building being info dumped or having exposition, there is none of that here. You just get to learn organically, and it is fun and awesome, and I just didn't expect to be as excited about a new world as this made me. This made me so excited. I bought all of the rest right away. I was so excited about it. Now, the biggest disappointment, The Testaments. I made a rant review for this because I was upset. I legit liked Handmaid's Tale. I liked the show. I gave the book 4 stars. It's literary fiction, so it's not like my comfort genre, but I really appreciated the beauty and the prose and the headspace, and nothing I liked from Handmaid's Tale was in The Testaments. Nothing. And I'm not going to go into a tangent here. I have a whole rant review for it. It is spoiler-filled because, yeah, but I have a lot of thoughts, and I was very disappointed. I was extremely disappointed. I also want to talk about what I think are the best discussion books I read this month, because I think books are the most fun when you can discuss them or when discussion enhances them. And one I will say is Midnight Robber by Nalo Hopkinson. I have a review for this one. This one I read because I wanted to read a Nalo Hopkinson, because it's a lot of my friends that I met through Quarantine Pages' like favorite author. And also a few of us got together to discuss the book. So like 3 or 4 of us. And it was so good. It was such a good discussion. We all like had different connections. We discussed things that maybe weren't done perfectly in the book. Like it was a great experience. I talked to Nikita about it all the time. I really liked this as a discussion read. I think you gain a lot from discussing it with people because there's a lot going on. You're going to make different connections. You're going to have different opinions about it. It's great. And in a similar vein, also made a review for this one, is The Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I read this book for a book club. I discussed it with Rachel from Let Me in the Library, and then we both went to my personal book club. I invited her to my virtual book club to discuss it. And all of these discussions made these stories so much better. Like, they were already beautiful and amazing, but seeing how other people connected the different stories different ways and took different themes and brought up different historical contexts, and it was really, really great. It is enhanced by discussion. It's a wonderful collection. Don't be concerned that it's a short story collection. It worked really well for my group, so I'm sure it would work well with yours. So yeah, and then the last highlight of the quarter, my favorite video that I've done for myself, and that's my Science Behind the Magic. I love my Science Behind the Magic videos. They are a lot of work. They kind of always intimidate me, but I'm always really proud of them. And the one I'm really proud of is the Jurassic Park one I did recently, so Can We Make Dinosaurs? So if you haven't seen that one, I'll have it linked, and I think it's really great, and who doesn't want to know if we can make dinosaurs? So yeah. But that's it for this one. If you made it this far and you want me to know you were here, you can just give me, like, I don't know, a graph emoji. I think that exists if you're on your phone. And if not, you can just say hi on your keyboard and just leave a smiley face. Otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.